everyone, welcome back to my channel, Everlynn's Books and Tea. Today I'm so excited because we are going to start playing our romance reading game for the month of February. This is our monthly reading game challenge, and obviously the theme for February has to be romance. Hopefully we'll be reading a wide variety of romance books from contemporary to historical to romantasy, and I cannot wait to see how this game treats me this month. So let me show you our board first of all. This is our romance game board. We're going to start here and then go all the way around the board till we hit the finish line. Hopefully this board treats me as well as the January one did, but you know, who knows? We're just going to have to see. I am excited because I do have a lot of romance books on my February TBR, so I'm hoping to get some of those books read during this game. But again, it's going to be the luck of the draw. All right, let me show you the tokens that we have for January, or February. I don't know why I said January. Our first token on the board is going to be the heart prompt token, and I'll put a bigger version up here. If I land on this, I will spin a wheel from 1 to 27, which are going to correspond to our hearts over here. For example, if I landed on 25, I would take this heart here that has 25 on it, and on the back is an envelope, and inside this envelope is a book, and whatever book is in the envelope is what I will read for that spin. So if we land on this, I basically have absolutely no control over the book I end up reading. Next up is our romance trope token. If I land on this, I have a wheel that has 14 different romance tropes. I'll spin that wheel in whatever trope we land on, such as enemies to lovers or friends to lovers. Those are like the two simplest ones I could think of. Whatever trope I land on, I have to read a book that features that trope. So pretty simple, that one. Then lastly, we have the romance subgenre token. If I land on this, I will spin a wheel that will choose which subgenre I use. For this game, it's going to be contemporary, historical, or romantasy. Once I have that, I would choose a mug over here. This mug has our historical prompts in it, and choose a prompt out of here, and I will have to find a book that matches that prompt. So those are our three options. Like I said, I'm super excited to read this. I'm super excited to play this, and I cannot wait to see what romance books I'm going to be reading for the month of February. All right, so the first thing we have to do is set up our game board. So let's go ahead and do that, and then we'll go ahead and do our first roll of the game. All right, so here is our game board. I got our tokens over here. Let's turn those over, and let's go ahead and fill out the game board. See what it looks like. All right, here's our game board. I think it's pretty well spread out. I don't really see any clumps of tokens together that are the same. So I think this is going to be a great game board to play on. So all that's left is to go ahead and do our first roll. All right, so this is the same little guy I used in my February TBR game, which treated me very nicely. So I'm hoping he does the same for this game, if I can get him to stand up. All right, he's not going to stand there. We're going to put it right next to it. Let's go ahead and do our first roll. A 6. Wonderful. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. He does not want to stand. There we go. We got a heart prompt. All right, we are starting out strong in that we rolled a 6. We did land on the heart prompt though, which means we have absolutely no control over the book that we will be reading for our first book for this game, which makes me a little bit nervous, I will say. Hopefully we get a good, easy one to start this game off with, or one that's on my TBR. That would also help. All right, so on this screen, I have our romance reading game wheel that has the numbers 1 through 27 on it that corresponds to the hearts here. Let's go ahead and spin the wheel for the first time. Like I said, I'm definitely nervous about this one. I have some long books in these hearts. All right, we got number 3. So let's find heart number 3 on here. They're in no particular order, and I guess we're going to find out what book we get. All right, let's see here. Like I said, they're in absolutely no order. Because, you know, why would I do that and make it easy on myself? I didn't even think about that when I was putting these on. I was making it pretty. 5. Well, it is a red heart. 1 through 9 are in red, so that helps. 4, 1, 7. Maybe this one. 3. All right, we got it. Heart number 3. Whatever is in here, whatever is in this envelope, is a book we are going to read. Hopefully it is a good one. Here we go. Let's unfold the piece of paper. Not looking. Also having trouble unfolding it. You guys can see it first. All right. We are starting off good. This is the 7-year slip. This book is perfect. Not only is it in my 25 books to read in 2025, it is also on my February TBR. So we're going to be checking off so many check boxes with this read. So this book falls in my contemporary romance reading category, though there is some time travel kind of fantasy stuff to it. So this book was published in 2023, written by Ashley Poston. It's a very well-known book that most people have already read, but I have never gotten around to reading it, so I'm super excited to see what I think of it. So this book follows Clementine, who has come up with a plan to keep her heart safe, and it is to work hard, find someone decent to love, and try to remember to chase the moon. But despite having this plan enacted for a year, she still isn't ready to kind of let her heart go. And then one day, she ends up finding a strange man standing in the kitchen of her late aunt's home. He has kind eyes, a southern drawl, and enjoys lemon pies. Who doesn't? The only problem is he exists in the past, 7 years ago to be exact. And Clementine knows that if she lets her heart fall, she'll be doomed. After all, love is never a matter of time, but a matter of timing. So that is our first book we are going to read. Once again, we are starting this game off well. The game is being nice. We'll have to see if that continues. But I'm going to go start reading this book, and I will see you when I have completed it and let you know what my thoughts are on it. I'll see you soon. All right, so I'm going to confess that it's several days later since we chose our first book for this game, which was The 7-Year Slip. And I have finally completed the book. It took me longer than I thought it would, not because I didn't enjoy it, just because of other things going on. And today I'm here to let you know my thoughts on one of the more popular Goodreads books. I have a cup of tea with me today because it is freezing cold outside. It's like 21 degrees Fahrenheit, so definitely not the warmest day today. All right. So 7-Year Slip. I will say I was nervous going into this one, mostly because it is so popular and I didn't really know how I was going to feel about this book, but I'm happy to say that I definitely really enjoyed it. I did not give it a 5 out of 5. I did give it a 4.5 out of 5. I'm very stringent on my 5 out of 5 stars for some reason. I don't know. I have a lot of difficulty giving out a 5-star to a book. So 4.5 out of 5 is a really good rating from my standpoint. It did take me a little bit of time to get into the book, mostly because after I read like the first 20 to 30 pages or so, I started to have some preconceived notions of where this book was going to go, which I wasn't really like super excited about. But then as I got further on into the book and the author proved my preconceived notions entirely wrong, I definitely started reading it a lot faster and really enjoyed my time with the two characters in this book. And that is why she is the author and I am not. She definitely has some twists and turns that I did not expect or would not have thought of if I was writing this book, and that made it just like a really, really fun book to read. The main character was Clementine, and she actually worked at a publisher's house, which I thought was a fun place for a character to work. And she had recently moved into her aunt's apartment, who I don't think I know, who had passed away. So this book does deal with some grief. And her aunt had told her that this was a magical apartment and sometimes weird things happen. And before she knows it, she's sent back to 7 years into the past, where a guy seems to be living in the same apartment who she kind of starts beginning to develop feelings for. And obviously there's some issues with that. When this guy is living 7 years in her past, it makes a relationship a little bit difficult. I felt like Clementine was written like a she just felt like a real person. Like sometimes in these romance books, especially, like the characters just don't feel like they could truly be real. Like you're not going to run into them walking around outside. And Clementine definitely felt like a real character to me. And I think that was a very strong point in this book, especially when you're adding some like fantastical moments into it with like time traveling into the past. I think you need to have a very strong, very real character to make this book work. And I felt the author did a really good job with that. So everyone was right. I can see why this is a popular book and why everyone always talks about it. I'm very happy I finally got to read it and that I can join in on these conversations now when people bring up the 7-year slip. Oh, here's my cat. You can't see her. Want to say hi to the camera, Preza? She's just looking for her tea time treats because I made tea, but we don't have tea time until 4 and it's only noon. All right, so that was the 7-year slip, and I guess it's time to go ahead and do our second roll of the game. Hopefully the board treats us well with another big roll, but we won't know until we roll. All right, there we go. So let me bring up the game board and we'll do our second roll. All right, now that we completed roll number 1, it's time to go ahead and do our second roll for this game. So let's see what we get. And we get another 6, so moving far ahead. All right, let me just put where we were back. All right, so that is where we were. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And it's another heart prompt. So let me bring up this spinning wheel and we'll go ahead and see what number heart we will be reading next. All right, so the game board listened. We got another 6, moving forward another 6 spots, and we landed on the exact same thing, which is the heart prompt, which means we'll be choosing a heart from this little stack over here that we did last time. Lift it up a little bit without breaking it. All right, so let's bring up the spinner wheel and we will see what we get. If you happen to hear some noise in the background, that is my cat playing with a squeaky toy. All right, so we landed on 23. All right, let me see if I can find heart number 23 on here, and then we'll see what book we are going to read. All right, let's see here. Oh, here it is. That wasn't too difficult. We got a pink heart this time. Colors really don't mean anything. And let's go ahead and take the book out of the back here, and we'll see what book we will be reading. All right, here we go. This could be anything. All right, we have Becoming Leda by Michelle Grierson. All right, so I'm not quite sure what this book is about. I honestly did not even own it till I started to set up for this game. I don't know why I bought it or when I bought it, but I guess we're going to be reading it this time. So let me go look up the synopsis real quick and I'll give you a quick little brief on what this book actually is about. All right, so this is going to be, from what it looks like, a kind of like historical fantasy book maybe, with romance in it. It says that this is a love story set in the 19th century Norway, which I'm excited about. I don't know why, but I love books in Norway, especially like romances. I just love the cold atmosphere, and actually with the weather being 21 degrees today, the atmosphere is perfect for this book. So this book looks like it follows Leda, who was born in Norway and was born with blue skin and webbed hands and feet. So Maeva, her mother, is a little bit worried about this because she's worried that the town people are going to become suspicious and accuse her and her family of things that could end up getting them, sent out of the village or worse. The other issue is Peter, who's the father of Leda and the husband of Maeva, is in love with Maeva. He's her husband. And he just wants to protect his family, and that can also may cause some detriment to the family in the way that he's trying to protect them. So yeah, so that is what the book is about. It was published back in 2021, so it's a fairly recent book, and I'm excited to see how this book goes. Like I said, I don't even remember buying it in the past, and hopefully I will enjoy it. It's a pretty short book. It's only like 330 pages, so I'll probably get back to you guys sometime later today. It's like noon, so it shouldn't take me too long to read it, and I have the rest of the day to read, as far as I'm aware, at least. And I will get back to you as soon as I finish this book. I do really like the cover. I think the cover is like very beautiful with kind of like the northern lights and it being kind of like, was it twilight? So very atmospheric. So I will see you guys soon. I'll check in once I finish the book and we'll see what the book is like and go ahead and get our next roll in. I'll see you guys soon. So I finished the second book for this game called Becoming Leda by Michelle Grierson. And overall, I enjoyed it. I wasn't really sure how this book was going to go because I've never really heard anything about it, never read anything by the author. So I wasn't sure if I was going to like it or not. And I ended up enjoying it. I ended up giving it a 4 out of 5. There's definitely parts of the book I enjoyed, and then other parts that kind of were slower and I struggled through, I guess you could say. The book follows a family in 2 separate timelines. It's the same family of Maeva, Peter, and their daughter Leda. The first timeline follows Maeva the year her daughter Leda was born. And then the second timeline follows Leda when she is 7 years old, still living with her father and her mother. And then in between these chapters, there are all these like little hint chapters that kind of give you an overall view of what's going on in this story, sort of, I guess. I will say it's very confusing, especially in the beginning, to figure out what the heck is going on. You know you're in the future, you know you're in the past, but everything else, like, it's very confusing. And it doesn't help that there's 2 characters who have very similar names that are side characters, so I kept getting those confused as well. But eventually I figured it all out, got it all straight, and it made for a much more enjoyable read. The basis of the book is that Leda and Maeva are different, and you don't know why they are different, but you know that there's a lot of things about them that are different from other people who are living in their Norwegian village. The biggest one being that Leda was born with the webbed hands, webbed feet, and her hands were also blue. So the story kind of goes along until you figure out what exactly is going on with Leda and Maeva and what is happening. It's definitely more along the lines of a literary book because it is very slow. There's not a lot of action in the book, and the plot just slowly builds over time. It's kind of along the realms, I would say, of The Bear and the Nightingale and The Snow Child, if you ever read those. It has that same like mystic atmosphere and kind of leads you down the trail of what's going on through small hints here and there, but not a lot of action. So if you enjoyed those books, you might enjoy this one as well. There's not a lot of romance in it, I will say. The blurb on Goodreads says that it's like a romantic love story set in the 19th century Norway. And while the romance between Peter and Maeva are integral to the plot, it's really not at the forefront of the plot. That's not what the book is focused on. It definitely plays a part, but it's not like your typical romance where it's like the central part of the story. There's a lot more going on than just the romance between the 2. I think that's all I have to say about that book. I'm glad I read it, and I definitely enjoyed it for the most part. I think my biggest issue was that the end kind of really slowed down and felt like it was dragged out a little bit too long. But other than that, that middle section, I found myself just wanting to continue to read through each chapter. I enjoyed all the characters. But it's definitely a slow burn book. So if that's not for you, then this book probably not for you either. Because there's like no action in it. All right, I think that is all I have to say. I know I just said that, but that's it for sure. And we need to go ahead and bring up our game board and do our 3rd roll. Hopefully we'll get a good number that moves us forward on the board. There is a potential we could end on this roll because I think we're only 7 spaces away from the end. So let's see what we get for our 3rd roll of the game. So here we are for our 3rd roll. You can see we only have 7 spots left. No, 6 spots because that's finished. So if we roll a 7 or an 8, we already have completed the game. You can see that we still have every token left that we can land on. We still have the subgenres, the tropes, and the heart prompts. I'm kind of hoping for either the subgenre or the trope because I kind of want to choose the next book that I read so I can read something off my TBR hopefully, or at least have a better chance. But, you know, the game's in control, so let's go ahead and see where we're going. A 1. Well, I got one of my wishes, and that's for the subgenre, so yay for that. Alright, so what we are going to do is I'm going to quickly bring up our genre wheel. We'll spin that, and then we'll choose a prompt out of whichever mug matches the genre. All right, so here is our subgenre wheel. You can see it has our 3 subgenres on it. We have historical romance, romantasy, and contemporary romance. So let's go ahead and spin the wheel and see what mug we'll be pulling our prompt out of. So here we go. I'm kind of hoping for a romantasy. That's what I'm feeling. And I got my wish. All right. Mostly I'm hoping for romantasy because that's what I have left on my TBR to read. All right, so now we will figure out which one of these mugs is romantasy. And is this mug right here? You can see it says romantasy in here. Let's take that out. We have our prompts in here. I think there's 14 of them. So we are just going to go ahead and choose one. We'll go with this one here. Put it down there while I put the mug back. All right, here we go. Let's see what our prompt is. All right. So, this one is spin the alphabet wheel 3 times, and the author's name, either first or last, has to start with one of the letters. So I guess we're pulling up the alphabet wheel. So let's go ahead and do that. All right, so as you just saw, we rolled a 1, which was not the greatest roll ever. We got a prompt, which said that we now have to spin the alphabet wheel and then choose an author whose name starts with one of the 3 letters that we spin for, either first or last. So I still have some hope that I can get one of these romantasy books onto my TBR, but chances are a little bit lower at this point. All right, shifted over a little bit so I can put the wheel up here. Let's bring up the alphabet wheel. All right, so here's our alphabet wheel. I almost said we'll wheel it 3 times. We will spin it 3 times and see what letters we got. So hopefully we get some good letters. So our first letter will be Y, X, X. Wonderful, X. That's great. Let's do this again. Let's get some better letter. Are you kidding me? Now we have V. All right, we need a letter that a lot of people's names start with. So we need a good letter. S, T, D, I don't care. Anything but like Q. If we get Q and F. All right. Wonderful choices. X, V, and F. Let me go see if I can find a author whose first or last name starts with one of those and who has also written a romantasy. So wish me luck. I can't think of anything off the top of my head, but that's because I'm kind of in shock with these letters right now. So I will be back as soon as I can figure this out. See you soon. All right, so I have found options for the letters X, V, and F. Well, not X. I didn't actually find a romantasy book by an author that starts with an X that I own. So I did find 3 options though, and let me let you know what they are. The first is the second book in the Emily Wiles series, which I'm currently blanking on, but I'll have the picture up here. And that book is by Heather Fawcett, so F, so meets that criteria. And if you haven't read the Emily Wiles series, it's like a historical romantasy that is just kind of like a cozy historical romantasy that follows Emily Wilde, who is researching fairies, and she kind of in the first book she travels, I think, to Norway as well, to research a certain type of fairy in that setting. And while she's researching that, her academic rival shows up and starts to kind of take over her research, basically. I absolutely enjoyed the first book, and I'm super excited to read the second one, so that is why that book is an option for me. Our second option is the Zodiac Academy, Book 1, The Awakening, which is by Caroline Peckham and Suzanne Valenti. V, we got our V name right there. And this is a romantasy as well that follows a twin, or 2 twins, that find out that at least one of them is the heir to the throne. It turns out that she is a fae, and to claim her birthright to the throne, she has to prove that she is the most powerful supernatural in the whole of Celeria. And one way that she's going to do that is by going to this academy that is a very deadly academy. So I love books set in magical academies, so that is why I have chosen this one as a option as well. So that will be our second option. And then lastly, I'm kind of, stretching this just a little bit, is A Language of Dragons by S.F. Williamson. So we have an F, technically the middle name, and an initial, but I think it still works for this prompt. And this book is set in England during World War II. It's a historical romantasy, and it has dragons in it, and it follows the main character who arrives at Bletchley Park, where she is supposed to uncover the secrets of a hidden dragon language. That's this book, is our last and third option. So I really want all three of these books I really want to read. I'm very excited about all three of them, but there's only one of them that's actually on my TBR for February, and that is A Language of Dragons by S.F. Williamson. So this is the book I'm going to go with. I am super excited to read this. I think I said in my TBR video that I love books set in Bletchley Park during World War II. I just find the whole coding thing and unraveling the codes very intriguing. And I can't wait to see how they kind of take a real life event and put it into this fantasy world that contains dragons. And I'm super excited to read this and see how I like it. It's definitely a little bit on the longer side. It's over 400 pages. But hopefully I can get this through soon, or get this read soon, because I do want to get this video up in the next 4 days. So we'll see how this goes. We definitely have more rules left on the board as well. We only moved forward one, so there's high potential we'll be reading a fourth book for this game as well. So I'm going to try to get this read as quickly as possible. But like I said, I cannot wait to read this and start this. And we'll be checking the box off for both our romance reading game as well as our February TBR. So I will get back to you once I finish this book and let you know what I thought about it. So I'll see you guys soon. All right, so I have finished A Language of Dragons by S.F. Williamson. I ended up really enjoying this book. It's definitely a young adult book that follows the main character, Vivian, and the action really starts off on the first pages. So it jumps right into the plot. There's not really any buildup or anything. You're just immersed in the plot within the first several pages. So this book is set during, I think, the 1940s when World War II would be taking place, but this is in an alternative universe where humans live among dragons. And this book takes place in the United Kingdom, where there is a peace pact between the humans and the dragons. And the dragons are basically treated as fourth-class citizens. And humans are divided up into three classes, first, second, and third, with the first class having the most privileges and third class having basically no privileges. And this book follows Vivian, who is a second-class citizen who has just completed her entrance exams to go to college, where she's been accepted into a college to continue to learn dragon languages, which she already knows 6 of them. She's considered a polyglot in the universe of dragon languages. But before she's even able to start at the university, her parents end up getting arrested, and to try to get her parents freed and keep her little sister safe, she ends up making this pact to travel to Bletchley Park, where she is supposed to break a code that was created by the dragons. If she succeeds, that means her parents will be free, she'll remain a second-class citizen, and be able to go to the university, and her sister will be safe as well. But if she fails, her parents most likely are going to be killed. Her sister is going to be put into a government home, and she could be demoted or imprisoned. Lots of different things that could happen to her if she does not succeed. So this is the book that follows her and her trials of breaking this code at Bletchley Park. I did enjoy the plot of this book. It's definitely a political plot, but there's a lot of action that kind of took place that moved the plot forward at a pretty good pace. I would find myself reading, 100 pages without any even thinking about it. I didn't really ever get bored for pretty much the entire book. There is a small romance in the book between Vivian and someone else that she meets. It If you look at like the descriptions on the website, they call it enemies to lovers, slow burning romance. It's definitely slow burning, but I wouldn't really call it enemies to lovers. That's a little bit misleading, I think. The reason I ended up giving it a 4, though, is because of the main character, Vivian. In the beginning of the book, she is just very naive of what's happening in the world, and it's very frustrating, her outlook on everything that is going on. And then as the book progresses, she has to make this big decision near the end of the book. And it's like reading the book, it's not really difficult to tell what the correct decision is, but we just keep hearing about it from Vivian, how difficult this decision is. And she keeps giving the same reason why it's so difficult for her. And it's just, that is just very frustrating. And that is why I give it a 4, not like a 4.5, just because of how frustrating and drawn out this last decision she has to make is. Other than that, I felt like it was a very unique plot, using the inspiration of the code breaking that was done at Bletchley Park and putting it into this plot in an entirely different world with different, kind of like a different war going on, and creating just this whole new universe, this whole new way that things could have gone if dragons lived among us. So there we have it. That was A Language of Dragons by S.F. Williamson for 4 out of 5. Mostly just because I got very frustrated with the main character by the end of the book. So I guess it's time to go on to our 4th spin of the game, I believe we're on. So let's bring up the game board and see what we get for our 4th roll. This roll could potentially be the last one of the game. Let's see if luck will hold out. All right, it's time to see what happens on this, our 4th roll of the game. Here we go. A 3. And we have another romance subgenre. So let me go bring up the wheel and see what mug we are going to be pulling from. We were so close to finishing this game, but hopefully this will be the last book. So here's our subgenre wheel again. Again, it has our contemporary, romantasy, and historical subgenres on it. So let's go ahead and spin and see what type of book we'll be reading for this, our 4th roll of the game. All right, here we go. And, oh, it's right in between. Oh, it's historical. We were so close to getting another romantasy, but I'll take a historical book. I don't think we've only had one of those, which was Becoming Leda, which was kind of a historical fantasy one. So next up, let's pull our historical prompt. All right, so here's our historical mug. It's our gray one. And let's go ahead and see what we get. All right, here we go. This will be our prompt. We'll put it down there while I put the mug down. All right, here we go. This will be the prompt that we are going to have to fulfill. A castle, manor, or estate on the cover. All right, let me start going to look through the books I got, and we'll see what we can find that fits this. I'll be back soon. All right, this roll was not the last roll of the game. We rolled a 3 and landed on that subgenre again. We got our historical subgenre, and our prompt was a castle, manor, or estate on the cover. Not too difficult for books that are set in the historical time. But I was looking for a specific type of book. I just wanted a book that was quick and fun to read. And I was looking more of like a romantic comedy book than like a full-blown like romance book. So the book I ended up going with was a book that I bought, I think last year. It was released back in 2023 by I think it's an independent publisher. But the book is The Earl Next Door by Ashton Newbold. And this just looks like a fun book to read. It is released as a romantic comedy set in Regency times, and it follows the 2 main characters. The first one is Henrietta, who has found herself in some sort of situation that leaves her having to move to Bath, and she's of the age that she needs to find a suitor, get engaged, get married. And who ends up moving next door to her in Bath than the Earl, whose name is Charlie. And he is also looking for a suitor, but what he needs from this relationship is money. So Henrietta doesn't come from the royalty side of things, so she doesn't really have a dowry. And the person that Charlie is looking out for, not looking out for, but the person that Charlie wants to marry does have a dowry. So it looks like it could be kind of like a fun book, and hopefully the last book of this game, because I think we only have like, if we roll a 3 or above in our next roll, we will be done. So let me go read it. This book shouldn't take too long. It's only a little over 300 pages, and I will let you know what I thought about it once I complete it. So I'll see you guys soon. All right, so I have finished The Earl Next Door by Ashton Newble, and I absolutely adored this book. This book was just such a fun read, and definitely a change from A Language of Dragons, which was a little bit more on the serious side, the political side. This was just a fun book to read, and I really enjoyed it. I ended up giving it a 4.5 out of 5. So what happens is at a croquet match, a duke or a earl, I forget what their title was, ends up bending over and putting a hole in his breeches in the back of them. And she tries to very quietly let him know, but this kind of backfires on her. And a gossip newspaper puts out this article about her, about how all she cares about is looking up and down at men all day, and that now she is never going to be able to get married because no one is going to want to marry her after this article comes out. So she and her sister, who is kind of her guardian, her chaperone, her mother died at childbirth and the father died like 3 years ago, so now her older sister is looking out for her. The two of them end up going to Bath just to get away from the London scene so that they can kind of get through this season and, you know, just kind of stay down low, and hopefully next season all this will be forgotten and she can actually find a suitor at that time. But what then happens is that a earl moves next door named Charlie, and Charlie is trying to protect his little sister, and to do that he has to marry someone that has a dowry, which happens to not be obviously Henrietta. So he sets her sights on Lady Eleanor, who has like a huge dowry. Even though he doesn't really love her, he just needs her. He'll care for her, but he kind of needs her for that dowry to save his little sister. So anyway, one mishap after another, the two of them end up meeting at the Roman baths in Bath, England, and that just sets off their relationship, and they're trying to, stay away from each other because each of them has their own goals, and they make a pact that Henrietta will help Charlie get Eleanor's hand in marriage if Charlie agrees to move out in a month, because Henrietta needs her sister's, the person that she has fallen in love with a while back, she needs him to move in next door so her sister and that guy can fall in love again. It's a very kind of convoluted scheme that is going on here. But both characters are so much fun. I love Henrietta. She's very independent, very not afraid to say what is on her mind, but she has a good heart and just wants to make sure that all her friends are happy and safe. And she puts them above herself. And Charlie's kind of the same way. He does want to marry Lady Eleanor for money, but he has a very good reason, because he needs to protect his little sister. And of course, the two of them end up falling in love, and you just have to read the book to see if they end up together or not. This is the first book in a series of 3. The next one's, I think, the Duke's Diary, that follows the same characters in the book, or the side characters in the book. It picks up 2 of those to make the main focus in this next book, which I think I'll definitely read, because this book was just, like I said, so much fun. I love the characters. I love the kind of joking around, all the little incidents that happen. You know what's coming, but it was interesting to see how the author is going to get there. Definitely a wild plan at the end that got the author to the point that she wanted to be. But that's neither here nor there. I'll definitely see how that plan works in the next book, I have a feeling. But if you're just looking for like a fun book set in Regency times that's just a little crazy and, you know, fun characters, this may be a book that you enjoy as well. But that is The Earl Next Door. So now it's time to bring up the game board for the 5th time and see if this may be our last roll of this game. So let's bring up the game board and check it out. All right, here we are back on the game board, this time for our 5th roll. Let's go ahead and see what we get. And an 8. Of course, we get an 8 right at the end, but either way, we have finished our February romance reading game. Of course, on our last roll of the game, we finally get an 8 when we only needed a 3, but that's okay. We have completed our game, only 4 books that we had to read, which is not too bad. And yeah, reading romance game of 2025 is finished. I think this was one of my best games yet. I really enjoyed all 4 books that I read in this game, and we were kind of all over the place. We had the 7-Year Slip, which is that contemporary time-traveling romance. Then we read, what did we read after that? Oh, we read Becoming Leda, which ended up not being like a strong romance book, but definitely an interesting plot. Then we had A Language of Dragons, where we had some romantasy going on. Very mild, because again, that was not the main focus of the plot. And then we finished strong with a historical rom-com with The Earl Next Door. So I would call this one a success. I'm hoping to get this out today. I think it's like February 22nd, because next week I need to get out my TBR game, so I don't want to wait too long to post this video. I was actually hoping to do it a little bit earlier, but didn't work out that way, but that's okay. So hopefully we'll get this out this evening. I hope you enjoyed watching it and enjoyed the book choices that the game gave me. Like I said, next week we'll be putting out my March TBR and seeing how well I did in my February TBR. I got 6 more days. I'm about halfway through it, so I have 4 more books to read. So I may actually make it this month. We'll see. I hope everyone's enjoying their February and are excited about March. My reading game for next month I am super excited about because it's going to be focused on spring break. So we are going to take a trip to a random continent, and we will have prompts and wheels, and the theme of it will be whatever random continent we end up visiting. All the books have to take place in a country on that continent. So I'm super excited to see how this is going to work. Also a little bit nervous, but we'll see. This is going to be my first trial at it, and we can make adjustments if we bring it back again. All right, thanks again for watching this video. If you have read any of these books, let me know what you thought about them below. And if you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button. And if you want to see future videos by me, please hit that subscribe button. Again, thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate it, and I hope you had fun watching this video. I will see you in my next one. Bye!